This film is the real history, the real world history of the Jewish people, not the made-up one, the real history. So why don't we take a look together, who are the Jews in reality? Who are they?
На самом деле.
There are facts that cannot be contradicted. All of the noble titles, all of the noble European last names can only be read in Yiddish. No other language they can be read in. So, what does the whole world pray to? I want to speak with you about the European mysticism. And this mysticism, this is the religion of the European noble knights. I want you to understand the intention, the idea of these 5 films that are going to come out. And I'm going to start from Sicily because the first film we did in Sicily. There are 2 religions in Sicily. One religion is open for all, and the second one is a secret religion. It's kind of like it's unavailable for the people, or they don't really want to talk about it. But pay attention, isn't it like that everywhere? If we look at the world that we know, can't we say that it's like that everywhere? As you understand, any Christianity, any Christian religion, it does not allow for someone to believe in something else other than Christianity. So let's take a stroll down Christianity. As we know, the Orthodox Christians, being the most righteous, they go to the church or the temple and they truly pray to Jesus Christ. But the funny thing is, when they leave the church, usually they go to a gypsy and they ask them to look at the crystal ball and tell them about their future. So as we see, there's a second belief that cannot be cancelled out. Let's take a city that I'm from, which is Odessa. People here in Odessa are very magical. They spend all their time with fortune tellers. One thing that they truly believe are fortune tellers. They truly believe not what the priest said in church, but what the fortune teller told him for 50 rubles. So as you can see, there's a second religion, and this double religion is all over the world. On instance, let's take Tibet. They have Buddhism and they have Bon. So they even call it like that, Bon de Buddhism. So where did this Bonpo come from? Bon, it existed always. And Padvasadhava was the one that brought Buddhism to Tibet. And when he brought it, he was told that, we already have gods. To which he answered, "Okay, that's fine. Let your gods protect you on earth, and our gods will protect you in the skies." And this double standard, born in Buddhism, it's existed and will always exist. Let me explain to you why. Tomorrow you will wake up, and it doesn't matter what God you pray to, you're gonna need to eat something. Christianity doesn't teach how to handle a sword. You understand? It doesn't matter how much you wish to learn how to work with a sword from Jesus Christ, it just will not happen. Christianity does not teach how to make money. That's why this double standard, double religion exists all over the world, whether we want it or not. Anywhere we go, there will be the double standard, the double religion. And the only religion that really can't even be called a religion, because the whole world doesn't realize it as a religion. They realize it as the religious views of Jewish people. And this is the only religion, so to say, that does not have a second belief, a second religion. Well, so let's take a look. Who are these Jews? For some reason, people think that a Jew looks like, what you would think a Jew would look like, how we're used to it. I am Jewish, and do I look like those people with the hats walking down the street with the bahrama? I don't think so. I don't think I look like them, and my parents don't look anything like them. My teachers are also Jewish. They don't look like the Jews that you think of. Not their fathers, their forefathers. If you sit down and try to get to the bottom of how Jews look, you will understand that there's Jews that walk around with those hats, and then there's other Jews that don't have anything to do with walking around in hats. And I think we should get to the bottom of who the real ones are. Who do we know out of the Jews? If we ask ourselves today about the great Jewish thinkers, first thing that you guys will probably say is Rabbi and Rasha. And right away I'm going to ask you a question. And where did they live, those people? Where did those people live? And the answer is those people lived in Belarus, Germany, and, well, Europe. And France, which is Europe. And I want to remind you, when you arrive in Worms, Germany, if you haven't been, I recommend you that you go. You won't even find a portrait of Russia. If it wasn't for Alexei, if it wasn't for my technology, we still wouldn't be able to see the portrait of Russia. But he is a very famous European Jewish thinker.
There are facts that cannot be argued against. Look here. 1. All of the Jewish wise men are all European. That's a historical fact. It doesn't matter how hard you try, you will not find in other locations Jewish wise men. And the former Soviet Union. In other places, there's no Jewish wise men. Number 2, all of the noble last names, all of the noble titles can only be read in Yiddish. It's impossible to read it in any other language. It's impossible to read a French noble last name and understand what it's talking about. I have done this experiment many times. Well, we can understand that the German, Austrian, and Swedish, those are obvious. An Italian one you will not be able to read in any other language except for Yiddish. A French one you cannot read. Any noble European name, on instance, Graf Debussy. So in Yiddish, that translates to the face of honor. If we take Graf de Montsoreau, that translates to Knight of Sorrow character. So I want to talk about the religion of the European aristocrats. Of the religion of the European noblemen. If we cannot read their names in any other language, that means they're all Jewish. And I want to speak to you about the European mysticism, and that is the religion of the European aristocrats. Of the European knights and European noblemen. And this religion is alive to this day. And this film is about the religion of the European knights. It's about their doctrine and about their abilities of reaching results. According to history, over 2,000 years, in Europe there was an estate that was called the Knights. European Knights, European noblemen. Where did it go? Yes, of course, we can find right now ancient last names and castles, so forth and so on, like the Fuggers. We were at the Fuggers estate not too long ago. But that's just a couple of them. Where did everybody else go? Where is everybody else? Why is it that the knights don't exist, but the religion exists? And the religion, it doesn't belong to anyone. It's like a small funny play. There is a religion, but there's no believers. That's a strange religion, don't you find? They write books about it. Like here, not too long ago, I read a book called The Guide to European Mysticism. And in this book, they're writing about a religion that does not exist. The religion exists, but there's no people, there's no believers. They don't exist. And it looks like it's because we're used to that a religion has to be with people in temples. Okay guys, so what does the whole world pray to? Maybe this religion has spread to the whole world. Maybe this is the top religion in the world. We just don't know about it.
In that case, why are the knights disappearing? What or who could make such people put down their weapons and stop existing? Or maybe the knights have just transformed into somebody else, into a different class. The answer to this question we're gonna give a little bit later. I want to speak to you a little bit about faith. It's a very interesting question. When somebody says they have faith, they mean they believe in something. For a regular day-to-day human being, what does it mean when he says, I believe? You know, this word faith is very similar to the word hope. I have faith, or I believe, because I hope for something. And what do I hope for? I'll tell you. I hope that I will receive something, that I will get something. A Christian, he hopes that he was not lied to and eternal life awaits him. He is forced to search for something else to believe in because Christianity says just pray. Just pray and kingdom in the sky awaits you. And they say that here on earth there's nothing for you to look forward to. They say you have to submit to the authority and live of what God has gave you. And that's what Christianity says. But a human can't be like this, you know, a human will go out and get married all of a sudden. You know, it happens, and now he has a wife and 2 kids. But now this wife and 2 kids you have to feed and dress them. But God is not giving, you understand? You know, it's a problem because God is not giving him money, this guy. You know, if a person can go into a church and ask them, you know, he can say, hey, you guys say that God will give. Please give me a couple of $1 million. I love my wife, I love my kids, I really want for them to be happy. I want for them to be happy, I want them to go to good schools, to have everything. So please, I kindly ask you, please give me a couple of $1 million. Please, I really need it. What do you think a priest would tell you? The priest would say, God will give it to you. If you can imagine how many people had to appear for them to become so useless, it's almost like you need a whole factory that makes people to make that many incapable people. And we're faced with a question, so who made people incapable? Who made those people so incapable? Let's take a look at the life cycle of a regular day-to-day person. So let's take a look. How does he live? He wakes up, and what does he do then? A regular day-to-day human, he goes to work. That's right. How much time does he spend at work? Half of his life. And what does he do at work? I will tell you what he does. He has 5 states of being at work. He sits and he thinks of fairness and unfairness. He prays that on the 25th he will get his paycheck, or if we're talking about America, at the end of the week. He is hoping that everything will be fine and he will be given a promotion. This human, he tries to earn money, but that's not everybody, that's a small percentage of people. And there are some people that just wait for the end of the workday. because they think the paycheck will come automatically. So now let's take religious believers, people that have faith. How do they act? You remember the first type I said they think about fairness and unfairness. Now if you take a look into believers, there's a lot of them who blame God for everything in their life. Isn't that the same as thinking of fairness and unfairness? What about all the people that think after death they will end up in heaven? If you go through all those 5 stages, you will see that faithful people, they act the same as people as they do at work. And only a small portion of those faithful people that actually earn money. The priests are equal to those people at work that actually earn money. And the next question is, for which corporation do the priests earn money for? So I want you to imagine 2 factories that produce people. The first factory makes so-called trembling critters. And as you understand, this is the tradition of Mount Athos. You may think that the Athos tradition ends on Mount Athos. It's not like that. All of the factories that create so-called trembling creatures are placed there by the Athos tradition. Any trembling creature is born by the Athos tradition. And there's a separate factory that creates those who have the right. And that is the Norman, the Reign tradition. Their factories produce people who have the right. So let's take a look. What do we end up with? We end up with the bottom and the top. We end up with the nobleman and the simple man. Poor and rich. I can bring 100 examples of this. The businessman and the employees. So forth and so on. And it doesn't matter if you have democracy or monarchy. It's those 2 categories are going to continue to exist. And all of you think that those who earn money are magicians. And you consider yourselves the flock, the congregation of those priests. And the gods that you pray to are called businessmen. That's why we're going to speak about a religion that has a nucleus of the hope to receive something. And that's the difference that European mysticism has. It actually tells that you can't hope for anything. Instead, you just have to get it. So it actually shows how to get something. In which way, what to use. And it has special mechanisms. It has special methods of training yourself, of training your surroundings. It allows to train people and so forth and so on. And those are the things that allow for the Jewish nation to reach the results that you always hear about. So as you can see, the knights, they didn't go anywhere. They just retransformed it to a new class called the businessman. So look, in order to transform into something else, you have to leave behind something that's
It's going to be called the same as you are, that will allow for no one to recognize that you have transformed. Okay, so when the European knights decided to transform into businessmen, and it would be smart to leave behind someone who is named just like you are, and for everyone to think that those were the Jews this whole time. I think that would be very smart. As you understand. And it would be very important to put one main person that would give birth to Judaism. And that would also be very smart. And Baal Shem Tov fits this role well. He's not only a good fit for the role, he is the founder of Hasidism, and he actually opens Kabbalah for people. Baal Shem Tov, the start of the 1800s, the time of the bourgeois revolution, the removal of the European kings. Those are great conditions for the retransformation of knights. About the reasons and the initiators of the revolutions, we're going to speak separately in the 5th and the concluding film of The Own Religion. So let's get rid of those factories right now and understand how it happened. Well, as you understand, whether you want it or not, there are two categories of people. And it's not very hard to come up with that. Ones that want something and ones that don't want anything. So that's understandable. And those that want to reach something, there's a lot less of those. And a lot more of those that just think that God will give it to them. From ancient times, for some reason, there's been poor and rich. And there's a lot more poor people and a lot less rich, and this is nonsense. Just for some reason there's more poor people. The rich people are 10% and the poor people are 90%. And take a look at this compensation. So 10% of the rich organize the 90% of the poor. And that's the reason they're rich. And the 90% survive only because of the minds of the 10%. If they didn't have somewhere to go to work to, if they didn't have somebody that would give them money at the end of every month, in that case they would die of hunger. And when society starts to speak about the human rights, that's the next kind of myth that exists. All humans have rights for everything except for money. Not in one constitution it says that humans have rights to have money. He has the right to work. That's written in all constitutions. He has the right for someone to heal him, the right for medicine. Go on and read all of the constitutions in the world. They all say that a human has all the rights, even the rights to the moon rock that's laying on the moon. The right to money has only the Rhine tradition. Only they have the right to money. And then you will understand why there's so many religions in this world. Because any church, is Athos. It's the Athos tradition that produces the so-called trembling critters. And those who have the right, they exploit them. And there's always the third side, which gets everything in the end. And that's why Rhine cannot exist on its own. Rhine needs the Venetian tradition because they create the role models. The role models are the face of the Rhine tradition, and there's just a few of them. The ones that possess some kind of a science that no other people know, no other religion knows. And this science is unknown for everyone. And the fight against the European mysticism is the fight to not allow for this science to spread. But even all this cannot explain how exactly the 90% of the planet's population was turned into trembling creatures. And somehow they were able to have the 90% agree to stay in fear and to stay incapable of anything. And then some nice people decided to make such a thing that's called modern science. And in all of the countries there's a whole system that is like a fuse that prevents for a human to receive any type of knowledge. Because from a university graduates only an employee, always. So if you graduate with a nice degree, you will end up with a really nice job. This dogma is punched into everyone's head all over the world. And the funny thing is, not one university teaches you how to make money. But considering that, the people that are living on this planet, they think everybody that money is the most important. And the ones that don't think like that, well, you know, they're kind of, they're all broke. We're faced with one question. The time of the knights has passed. It is now forbidden to take stuff away from people using force, and it's unethical and immoral. So where is the exit from this labyrinth? How do you stop being the trembling creature and become the one who has the right? The religion of the European knights is called the truth, or trutha. Why? Why is it called like that? Well, at that time, people were living in a certain way. They had a certain way of life. And that way of life looked like this. There was a king, there were noblemen, and then there were just simple people. In the language of the heavenly hierarchy, it looks like this. God, then the king. The king is the equivalent of God on earth. The nobleman and the knights is the heavenly family, and the regular people is the family of the earth. And each one of these levels has its own tradition. For the kings, it's the Venetian tradition. Then we have the Rhine tradition. It's for the noblemen, for the knights. And it is also called the true thought because it has been brought down from heaven to earth.
And then the tradition of the regular people, it's the Athos tradition. This segregation, and for them it's religion. Any religion, it doesn't matter what religion. And this is why the first step that a person has to do is make a choice. As soon as you realize that you have the right, at that time you leave the regular people behind. I will bring up an example so you understand. Narodny Razum, he was born into a family of a man who baked bread. And when he died, he was the owner of the city called Padua. He was a great captain of the Venetian Republic. So at one particular moment, this person had to understand that he has the right and leave the rows of the simple people of the Athos tradition. And then he would transfer into the Rhine system. And remember what Machiavelli said. He said that a warrior system has such power that it can make a king into a simple man, and a simple man into a king. That's why the book that we're talking about, the book that we're making this movie about, is called The Truth, and it is about the religion of the European knights, of the European noblemen. And if you will learn all the formulas that I will be giving you throughout this video book, so to say, then you will rise yourself above many other people. I think that you will finally realize that you do have the right, and you will join the path of the 10% of the Rhine tradition. At least that is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you're gonna take in the dogmas of the Venetian school and become a knight. I'm not counting on that. But you can change your dogmas from the 90% to the 10%.